Today's episode will rival any HGTV episode. Design inspiration is today's topic, as our industry expert is going to share the latest design trends for gyms. Follow along today's episode from the Fitness Business Podcast to grab a few tips to spruce up your club. Has the Fitness Business Podcast been instrumental in your business or leadership style? Head to iTunes or Spotify to leave us a review. We are here for you, and we want to make sure that the time you spend with us is the best time of your day. It's an awesome day here at the Fitness Business Podcast. I'm your host, Dory Nugent, and today our guest, Rudy Fabiano, will bring the design magic that will have your club the envy of the industry. Rudy is the CEO and design director of Fabiano Designs, and he is here to spend a little time on the mic with me to discuss design trends in the industry. Rudy's episode will start in 2 minutes. First, a big shout out to MyZone for supporting today's show. MyZone has pioneered unique wearables with talking point technology that makes the difference. Reach more members of your community and keep them engaged for longer through motivation and gamification wherever they choose to work out. In the gym, at home, or outdoors, we're stronger together. Get in the zone at myzone.org. I gotta be honest with you, I love my MyZone switch. Take a look for yourself at www.myzone.org.
Get your pen ready now for MyZone's FitBizspiration.
All right, Rudy, what are your 3 top suggestions to enhance the look of a club on a limited budget?
Okay, well, let's start with I have no money. And what do we do then? Buy flowers and put them around in the lobby, put them around in the locker rooms. That in itself will enhance. It will bring a smile to people's faces, right? So that's almost no money advice. The second one is you really need to look at what's broken in your club. Before you think about painting or getting another piece of equipment, which is on the average about $4,000 to $7,000, make sure that there's no leaky tiles. Make sure there's no, tiles in the ceiling. Make sure there's no broken tiles in the wet areas. Make sure there's no chipped Formica on your front desk, because that will tell more to a prospective member than anything else that they're going to want to know. And you're going to turn people away. And lastly, I think hire a professional, whether it's your sister-in-law who's a designer. Don't listen to her too close, but listen to her last few words about what they say. Right? Or you can call us, send us a picture, and we'll give you a quick tip on the house.
Are you having issues with employee accountability or need to polish your skills on how to have productive conflict and healthy debates within your team? Well, don't worry, because today, after this week's full interview, I'm going to introduce you to next week's guest, Steph Tuss, who is going to help you lay a foundation to foster accountability amongst your team. As we know in the fitness world, what you don't measure, you can't manage. In today's world, it's never been more important to show the impact your programs are having on your customers. If you're looking to offer an affordable and accessible technology to measure your clients, we've got just the thing for you. BodyMap's 3D body scanning technology. With BodyMap, you can offer your customers a truly personalized fitness journey. The BodyMap 3D body scanning app provides a complete picture of your customer's body composition, allowing you to tailor workouts and nutrition plans that are customized to their individual needs. The best part? There's little to no upfront or committed cost to your business. That's right. You can partner with BodyMap and offer this cutting-edge technology to your customers without any financial burden on your part. So, what are you waiting for? Partner with BodyMap today and unlock the power of 3D body scanning for your business. Let's get started with today's episode, shall we? Fitness design legend Rudy Fabiano, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you, Dory. I don't know about a legend, but I'm happy to still be designing
You're a
after all these years.
legend. You're a legend.
Well, I'm always happy to get work. And so, because that's an opportunity to do what I love, which is designing.
Well, listen, I have to tell you this funny, real quick story. JT and I were at URSA, this year, and we were walking the trade show floor, and there was this lady that had a design booth set up. She's a designer, right? So I was like, oh, okay. Well, that maybe we haven't had anybody on in design for a while. So I went up to her and I talked to her and introduced myself and, talked for a few minutes. And then I met up with JT later and I was like, hey, I said, look, maybe potential guest. And he was like, throw that card away. If we're getting anybody on, we're getting Rudy on. We're not getting Rudy on. I was like, okay. And he reached out to you, of course, and made this episode possible. So thank you, JT.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know if I have a lot to say, but yeah, let's hear what you'd like to know.
All right. Well, there's so much to cover, right, in today's interview, but I'd like to just start with, what are the latest trends that you're seeing in the design of health clubs? And maybe that's too broad. What do you think?
Well, no, it's not too broad. Actually, I think it's really an important question. Now, we can talk about the micro trends and the micro trends like, okay, free weight is exploding. Is cardio, coming back, or are people still outside running and all that? What's happening with groups? What's happening with turf? But I think there's sort of an underlying trend that's going on that I've been noticing. And that is just sort of demographic and programming. Different groups are using the clubs in different ways and need different attention. So in general, for the longest time, we've had clubs that pretty much his attitude is one size fits all. So there's the workout floor, right? We have turf, we have free weight, whatever you want, go ahead and pick your spot. And what I'm getting, and so again, we're in a position where people call me all the time and say, hey, I have an idea I want to pitch. Can you help us design something? What I'm getting is this sort of micro trend of being accommodated. As an example, we just finished a club out in LA, which is for the over 55 crowd, right? It's called Q4, fourth quarter of your life. And they really focus on not only the physical, but also the mental acumen and trying to keep you sharp, trying to keep you physically healthy, and also trying to keep you emotionally connected to people of your age group. And I see that happening more and more. Big clubs are starting to take almost the boutique approach where they're saying, you know what, we're not for everybody. And so we're going to dedicate it for specific groups. Part of what's driving that is you go to clubs now, you go to the high volume, low price clubs, right? And every 20-year-old is in there doing Instagrams and they're in great shape because it's easy to be in great shape. No disrespect, but when you're 20, it's much easier to be in great shape than when you're 40, 50 or above that. And that's a little intimidating for some of the other people. And so it's really driving this other market force of like, we've been trying to do this for a long time because we know that 15 to 20% of the population works out and the struggle to get that other 80%. I think this is one of the venues. How do we do that? Accommodate that directly, accommodate the age group, accommodate the buyers, accommodate the club mentality of like, hey, I want to hang out with people my age or my lifestyle. And I'm seeing that as a big growth movement right now, as an underlying trend that I think is going to grow.
So as the CEO and the design director of Fabiano Designs, what would you say is the number one trend that you're seeing for entrances, for the main entrance of a club?
Well, it depends on what type of club you're speaking about. So if you're speaking about a high volume, low price club, which for the longest time, everybody's been moving there because it was kind of easier. Most of the time, there really isn't a lobby or a foyer, right? You walk in and you see the whole club and it's part of the club environment. And that's on purpose because it's easier to run. It's less staffing, less construction costs, but maybe it doesn't cater to everybody, right? So what would happen if you take a high volume, low price club and create a really beautiful lobby, right? So you pause for a few seconds before you jump into the workout, or you take a breather before you leave the club, right? So that's going against the grain. And that would maybe make a little market sense to that type of club, right? Going against the grain from a design strategy, from an experience strategy. Now, if you have a $100 club, you're most likely going to have a little bit more opulent, right? You're going to give more space to that breathing. So I think it's really rethinking, how do you treat the arrival and how do you treat the departure, right? I always say that leaving the club, you want to really reinforce, hey, great workout you just had. Hope you come back. Hope you feel great out there, right? And when you arrive, to take that moment of pause before you jump in, get that energy going, right? Now, one of the things, so I think that's kind of the trend, is rethinking how we want to position that. Now, there's another trend that we don't speak about that I think we have to start thinking and talking about, and that is safety, right? Security and safety. I take it for granted. It's a member club. Half of the clubs have turnstiles, half of them don't. But, it is a member club. It is a paying member club. And I think, how do we protect those members from people coming in? And we don't want to think about it, but unfortunately, in this time and era, we have to, and give that some level of consideration. And so we're putting it in the back of our minds, and when we're designing it, we're sort of thinking, how can we create a bigger safety barrier for our members?
I think that's amazing advice. I really appreciate that you're thinking. That's forward thinking, and in today's world, you don't want to think about it, but you have to.
Right. That's right. That's right. And that's part of our job. That is part of our job and what we bring to the table.
Well, I'm going to say a few years ago, and I'm going to just pick a number out here, 80% of the group exercise studios that you would see on social media or you would attend had rust-colored paint inside. That seemed to be like the trending color there for a while.
Right.
Tell us now in 2023, tips, trends for the Group X studio.
You mean, what's the color? I always get asked, I get a lot of calls. They say, look, we just want the colors. Can you just give us the colors? Like, that would actually make a big difference. My advice about colors is, you want to look at colors, buy a couple fashion magazines, because they spend a lot of time and a lot of research what colors are trending and what's going to get you to pick up that magazine, right? But on a realistic level, first of all, let me say this. Designing group fitness, I'm designing a backup band, right? If you don't have great instructors, you can build the most beautiful studios in the world, and it's not going to go anywhere. I'll give you a quick story. We designed an amazing spin studio in Dumbo, Brooklyn. The epicenter of the world for IMAX, where the IMAX projector was so sensitive that we couldn't have any air moving on it because you would see it shake. We had a screen that was 60 feet wide and 30 feet high, curved, and a stadium seating wall with bikes that can fit probably 100 bikes. But they did it all with content because they're IMAX, right? No instructor. The thing failed in about 6 months, right? And that was a lesson for me. I can do the best work for you ever, have cool lighting that changes from blue to orange to pink, right? But unless you have and you invest in great instructors, you're better off not even putting a group studio in.
Interesting. Wow. So how did you fix that? How did you fix it if it failed?
It failed and went under. Now, we try to get them to bring instructors in. And specifically, we said, look, man, you could put a 3-stage instructor. It reminds me of something I learned a long time ago, very early in the fitness industry, where most of the owners I spoke to would always say, well, this is what we're offering. And I would say, but is that what your people want? Right? So maybe the idea of selling or providing what your members want rather than what you want to sell them, kind of works as a business strategy, right? Now, going back to the studio space, the studio has to perform. So if I'm doing it has to have great acoustics, because if you have crappy acoustics, you've been in studios. If there's too much echo and you can't really understand the instructor, that's no good. And if there's too much distraction, if the lighting isn't right, if the spacing isn't right, I hate when I walk into a beautiful studio and there's storage all over the walls, like built-in storage. You need 20%. I know no one wants to do that, but, at least 10%. If you have a 2,000 square foot studio, you need 200 square feet of storage in that room. No one likes to think about that, but you'll be so happy after if you do that.
Wow, I didn't know that. All my years in Group X, I didn't know that tip. That's good to know. All right. Well, yourself, as well as the design team at Fabiano Designs, did a terrific design of the functional space at the Houstonian Health Club in Houston, Texas. So what was the trend in the functional space?
Well, the Houstonian itself is an extraordinary club. There's two membership tiers. One is it costs you $20,000 to join, and the other it costs you $30,000 to join. Approximately, I think it's actually higher now, right? So that was a total redo of an iconic facility. An 80,000 square foot facility. And what I love to do first is really analyze and see what's working and what's not. And in that particular facility, right in the middle of the whole beautiful club, which needed an upgrade, was this huge basketball court underneath the skylight that maybe 4 or 5 people use 3 times a day. And so, I made quite waves when I said, the basketball's got to go because this is useless. And so what we did, eventually they bought into this. So we decked half of it, made a beautiful courtyard where everybody sort of gathers around on the lower area because you're underneath the skylight, a beautiful skylight. And then the rest of it, about maybe 4,000 square feet, it was all turf. And boy, you almost can't put enough of open areas in the gym anymore. We worked with the East Bank Club a few years ago, and they took out a tennis court. That's 7,000 square feet of turf. Now what we like about that is that people can do their own thing, right? There's a certain fitness IQ that I think has grown around the country where people know what to do, and what goes really great with the turf are the deadlift platforms and the lifting. So you add that element to it. And in the Houstonian, it was just a great turnaround. But, the Houstonian, because we were able to analyze the club clearly and see what they were missing from this very expensive offering, and then create a world-class element that really made a big hit. You're really like working out outside. Inside in the air conditioning in Houston, you need that. But that it really became a great endeavor. Part of that was they have a pro shop that's 3,000 square feet. That's going to make $4 million a year. We added a restaurant, we added yoga studios. I always find that whatever program we talk about, you have to talk about legitimacy and make it a legitimate, place that gives you all the bells and whistles that you need. Even if you can't afford the materials, providing a world-class experience in fitness is just about planning. It's not about materials.
I can't even imagine. I've never been to the Houstonian. It's on my bucket list. I hope someday that I get the opportunity to go check it out because it sounds amazing.
I spent a lot of money into it, but it's the payback. And the only thing I would say was don't be intimidated by that, because whether you have 20 million, 2 million, or 200,000, with proper planning and proper consideration, you can get a world-class experience and provide that for your members.
I don't want to forget to ask you about locker rooms. What do you have for the latest trends in the locker rooms?
Locker rooms are important. I remember when I was doing a lot of consulting, I still go and evaluate clubs, and some owners would say, yeah, no one goes in the locker rooms. There's really nothing I need to do there. And I look in and I say, well, I know why no one goes in there. So, locker rooms are an important amenity. It's all about amenities, and they really support the ability to go to the gym, work out, and go out. Right now, one of the things I learned is that the locker room experience is very different for women than for men because of hair. right? You can't, because you're not going to spend time doing your hair, or unless you have a blowout, which some clubs do. Have a blowout service in locker rooms, but it's about the ability to feel comfortable naked in the locker room, to be able to use the locker room services, take a shower, get dressed. But also, it's also the recovery aspects are growing in the locker rooms now. I was at FIBO in Germany, which is the largest trade show in the world. I don't know if you've ever been there, Dory, but it's an amazing experience. It's Ursa 10 times. And they have a whole hall about locker room amenities, essentially. And they have this one room that makes snow, right? That you actually go in and it's snowing. Now, that's a little bit gimmicky, but the point is that cold rooms and cold showers and cold plunge are part of the recovery effort. That coupled with the hot, which is right now, saunas, much more than steam, are very popular. Now, in some areas, sort of the older demographic, steam is really popular. Younger, sauna because of the health benefits of saunas. So adding as many amenities into the locker room is important. But it also has to do with how much are you charging, what type of club are you? At its minimum, the locker room should feel no different than I would feel if I was in a hotel, right? And have that kind of cleanliness, that kind of lighting, and that kind of durability in materials, right? So whether you're a $10 club or a $100 club or a $200 club, you need to invest in the materials in the locker rooms because they take a beating and it's going to look bad very quickly. And that's not going to sell you any memberships.
Now, if you want to sell me on a membership, you can sell me on the locker room because I'm the before work,
Right.
workout before. So the locker room actually is my place to get ready every day.
That's
So
right.
I need the same amenities that I have in my personal bathroom.
That's right. And that's what you need. And you need the space.
Yes.
You need the space to be able to do it so you're not butting up against people. And say, well, locker rooms don't make me any money. Actually, they do. They're directly towards retention, directly towards selling a membership, because that's part of what I would call resort fitness. As people sort of, are able to travel right now, resort traveling is off the charts, right? The planes are booked. People are experiencing real high-level experiences, and they need the same thing on a daily basis or weekly basis when they come to the locker rooms. And so, yeah, very important.
And can we please stress how important it is to have a good blow dryer? Because those little cheap drugstore blow dryers puts me in a bad mood. I want a good blow dryer.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you need to have the proper space and the proper hair dryers to groom. The other thing that's important about the locker rooms, and we started doing this in Joe Cerulli's club many, many years ago, is using these fan devices that have infrared light in them that kills germs. And they're really effective, but they kill germs, but in the process of killing germs, they kill the smell that goes with it, right? And then the last advice that is a must, you have to have negative air pressure in the locker room. That means that air comes from the club and goes through the locker rooms and directly outside. And will keep your locker room smelling fresh forever. That is the number one advice I would give you. Negative air pressure in the locker rooms.
There for a little while, I heard the trend was to get the physical lockers up off of the ground so people didn't have to bend over and dig in through the locker. Is that still a thing, or maybe that was never a thing? It
was never a thing. I think what happens is that it's really about the locker configuration. So we always advocate having a certain amount of full lockers for people that have long coats or whatever, and then half lockers. I personally, and I don't want to knock anything out there because I know the locker companies are going to call me, I hate the Z lockers because, you can never really put anything, on the bottom or on the top. I like straightforward lockers, make them as wide as you can afford to make them so you can fit things in them. 2 tiers is fine. If you're tall, have the top one. If you're shorter, have the lower ones. Whether there's a bench in front of it or whether there's a bench, in the aisle, that's all personal taste, and that's all has to do with how much space you have and you're dedicating towards your locker rooms.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that up. And I will stop giving you my advice or what I.
Oh, hey, I think listening to the members and what they're asking for is critical. Not enough owners do that.
Yeah.
It's just one off, but it isn't. One represents at least 10% of your membership.
Recovery rooms, recovery space, big trend, whether they're putting the massage chairs in or the Theraguns. If a owner came to you and said, I'll give you 1,000 square feet, design me a recovery space, what does that look like?
Well, the first question I would ask, is this a paid service or is this part of membership? Right?
Okay.
Because that talks to me about the usage. And that also talks to me about its positioning. Right? I mean, if you're selling it as part of the membership upgrade, that's cool. If you're selling it as a per use surface, that's another category. But right now, almost everybody is asking for recovery at some level, right? Whether it's 1,000 square feet, 200 square feet, 300 square feet, and the basis seems to be, the massage beds, the hydro massage, not to bring a brand in, but they've done a great job in really educating, I think, the ownerships about recovery and how it could benefit not only their pockets, but also their members, right? So a typical recovery may look like, 3 or 4 hydro beds. Right now the cryo beds are very, very popular, meaning that you can get any part of your body to be closer to 20 degrees, right? And without going to getting in a tank. Right, which is somewhat iffy and a little bit dangerous at times. It's unmonitored and certainly take up a lot of space, and you have, nitrogen tanks and so forth. So those beds are quite popular. Also massage chairs, but then you have red light therapy, you have the Theraguns, you have the Hyper Ice. I think the problem with that is it works well for everybody when it's automated. As soon as you get to that, you need assistance. For instance, how do you manage the boots, right? How do you manage the control of the Theraguns? Then all of a sudden it becomes this other element and we have to add staff. So that's sort of what's in flux right now, where it's going to go. Certainly here to stay. And we love designing a massage experience in those rooms and not just make it look like you're at the chiropractor. Right. We love the proper lighting. We love a little sense of privacy. We love the entertainment factor to it. And we love putting it where everybody can see coming and going. There's a noise factor that you have to control with the hydro beds. But if you plan well, it's all manageable and the experience could be wonderful.
So speaking of experience, I had the opportunity to go over to Gainesville Health and Fitness Club and experience their recovery room.
Oh, yeah, the chill spa.
Oh, my gosh. I could have stayed in there all day. So that was a private, you go in. Right. But as soon as you enter into the area, you just felt the calmness, the lighting. It was amazing.
That was a studio that was underutilized. And Joe is always thinking about, what can I do? How can I service my members better? And he came up with this idea where, you can buy credits to use that. I think 15-minute credits or 20-minute credits or half-hour credits, right? So it's a paid programming. It's not part of your membership. I think it's doing very well. And he gave us a lot of latitude to design that in a way that it felt like a spa. And I think it's quite successful for him. It photographs well for sure. And it looks great when you go in.
The lighting, to me, I feel like, yes, I mean, listen, anybody can have the aqua massage chairs and stuff. It's something about the lighting in that space that I just think sets a mood.
Yeah, we lit the curtains, right? We lit the curtains and let those glow. I love I love sexiness in design if I'm allowed to do it, right? If I'm allowed to investigate it and find the way to do it and have some subtleties, because that's what life is about. I mean, bringing in that tactileness, bringing in those emotions, that's where people connect with your club. So even when they're working out, as an example, in terms of connection, We came up with this theory, and Will Phillips really turned me on to this book and I read this book and I really started thinking about glamour and the glamour of sweat, right? How, glamour isn't just about just looking beautiful. It's about how you feel about yourself. And one of the things we do extraordinary, and it's really underappreciated, is that we really bring glamour to all our members. When somebody has a great workout and they're sweating, their hair may be drooping, and their makeup is a little off, but let me tell you, they're going to feel they're done. And that's an element to remember. And we should emphasize that no matter what your body looks like, no matter what you look like, the feeling of the experience is what really matters at the end of the day.
All right. Well, if you asked me the quick fire 5 question of what activity calms you, if I was a member of Gainesville Health and Fitness Club, I would say that recovery room calms me. Amazing. So great job on that design.
Well, thank you. We'll have to come and do one in your house. Yeah.
I want I'm signing up for the sexy feel. I like that. All right. So you said earlier, you can have a $200,000 budget. You can have a $20 million or $2 million budget, right?
Right.
Let's talk about the FBP listeners out there that are going to try to do the DIY project. They're going to do it themselves.
Right.
What would you say that they could maybe at least try to do on their own that would maybe help spruce up and refresh their club?
Well, I've been talking about this for a long time, thinking about it. I think it depends on the category of why they're sprucing up their club, right? So as an example, are you sprucing up your club because you lack a program element? So that's a whole different thing. So for instance, you don't have turf. You want to get some open turf. So then it's less about the aesthetics and more about fitting what you don't have. So that's about really analyzing your floor plan and saying, gee, where can I move some equipment? What equipment is underutilized? What parts of the club can I take over to create this much needed space that my members are demanding, which may be turf, or maybe an app, or, and maybe another piece of equipment that you want to get in. So that's programming element. And that has less to do with colors and paint and more to do with really analyzing and paying attention what's going on in the industry, what are you offering, and how can you meet that bar, right? Now, you have to look at, and you have to really be honest with yourself, look at what doesn't look well. I'm so surprised when I walk through and do an analysis of a club and I see dirty tiles in the locker rooms, or chipped formica. The first thing you notice, chipped formica at the side of the counter, or I look up and they're stained ceiling tiles, right? Those things are things that are maintenance based that you need to keep up on a monthly basis. My advice about that is that because it's like there's a perfume story that if you wear the same perfume after a while, you get desensitized and you don't smell it. So you put more perfume on and you put more and more on. And so those people, those guys that, blow you away because they have so much freaking perfume on, right? Because they don't know they have that, because they're desensitized. What I advise my clients is walk around with an aid and try to look for things that need fixing. Now, and most do-it-yourself people don't have an aid or don't have a maintenance person. So you have to make a conscious effort to walk through with new eyes every month and fix stuff. Now, if you're just losing members because your club is just simply tired and old, then, really paint. Paint and carpets and flooring do wonders. Lighting, change your light bulbs, right? You can buy light bulbs that you can change it with an iPhone to color. I go to IKEA and get a strip of colored lights for $30 and put it behind a mirror and it'll look great, right? So be innovative. You can be down and dirty. That's okay in terms of finding product. But look what's out there and forward thinking about it. So, if you don't have much money, paint is pretty easy. You can do it yourself with a friend. Have a paint party for your members, right? Change the light bulbs, change the color of the light bulbs, reorganize, lower. Sometimes the thing is not more lights, less lights,
Mhm.
That's how you get drama. Be willing to live with a little darkness and change the whole mood of your club by taking out lights and really just focusing on some nice elements, spotlighting those, right? And talk to a designer. But, we all know the bottom line is that if you own a facility, it's not right. You really do. Trust yourself. Walk through it and say, would I work out here? Right? Don't bullshit yourself. Excuse me, but many people do. I mean, really look at it honestly and figure out what needs fixing and fixing.
We're going to shift gears now. And that was such a great answer for the DIY. I thought you gave great tips and advice there. But now let's talk about the listener out there that thinks maybe they want to hire an architect such as yourself to come in and revitalize the club. Tell us why. Sell all of our listeners on why they should go with a firm such as Fabiano Designs.
Well, I mean, we do live in an age of specialization, right? I mean, I hate getting pigeonholed and people say, well, you can't design a house because you do clubs. Actually, I've done great houses for club owners, which is kind of ironic. But one of the reasons is because there's so much to learn. There's so much to know. I get into situations where they say, gee, if we built this cardio deck another 2 feet wider, I could have got another row in, right? Or I can't believe I used, this material for my countertop because it was shot as soon as water got on it, right? I mean, there's but let's be clear. Developing a club is not just about aesthetic design. 90% of what you're doing is really intelligent design. It's really putting the whole package together in a way that makes money. If you have wasted space in your layout, you're losing money. You're paying rent on things you're not capitalizing on, right? So it's that knowledge base that you're really hiring. You're hiring the mistakes that I made 25 years ago. And hopefully, they're less and less, but you still make some, right? And so that's where the advantage comes in. You don't have to speak to someone like me about what a deadlift platform is and how to control the sound of that, right? And how much energy costs running a club 24 hours, right? Or the best way to optimize a 12,000 square foot space to get all the things that you need. We actually get hired to work with local architects. So we'll come in and we'll do the design strategies, we'll do the concept strategies, and then let the local architect build it. Because once they have all those directions, then that's okay. I mean, we prefer to do it ourselves because it's sort of seamless. But I think the most important aspect is tapping into the knowledge base that someone like myself or my firm has gained over 33 years and over 1,000 projects, right? That you just can't, Google that.
Well, Rudy, today's episode has just been absolutely epic. It's been amazing. We could probably talk about this probably for another hour, but we have to bring it to a wrap. Is there I'll give you one last piece of advice or tip that maybe we just didn't go over today that you would put out there to all of our FBP family?
Boy, that's the hardest question you've asked me all afternoon. I don't know. I think more and more this industry is becoming really intelligent. I mean, it's a real business. I mean, you don't get too many, and no disrespect, mom and pops anymore. Most of the owners know the industry very well. I think it's important, though, to look outside your box. I think it's important to look at other industries and what's going on. Critically important to really look at your members' lifestyle, how you can become part of their world versus trying to convince them to become part of yours. I think if there's any advice or there's anything that we look at every time we go into a project is we try to look at the project through the member's eyes and what they're going to want and not what the owner wants, even though they may not like to hear that. They're less important to me than their members because that's where the money comes from.
Okay, who is ready to start renovating their club? Oh my goodness. After listening to Rudy, I am pumped up. Now, if you are interested in contacting Rudy for a consultation for design, please head to our show notes for his contact information. Now, here's my advice. If you're an avid listener to the podcast, subscribe to the show so the show notes can be sent to you every week. That way, you don't have to spend your valuable time Googling the show notes. Subscribe to the show and the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Coming up next, Steph Tuss, employee accountability expert, will be in the hot seat on the Quick Fire 5 segment. Don't go away.
G'day, it's JT here, and I was talking to Blair McCaney, the CEO of one of our sponsors, MX Metrics, the other day, and I gave him a hard time about his company's tagline, defeating mediocrity. By definition, that means he's excluding the majority of the market, but Blair just wouldn't budge. He only wants to work with operators who want to punch mediocrity in the face, really smash it. So I've talked to a few of his customers, like Joe Shirelli from Gainesville Health and Fitness, and yeah, it's for real. While Joe is a nice guy, he isn't satisfied with mediocrity either. He's crushing it as well. So I'm still dubious about selling only to operators who want to defeat mediocrity, but if this resonates with you, I reckon you should check him out. Go to mxmetrics.com. But remember, only if you're interested in smashing mediocrity.
Quickfire 5, sponsored by Hapana.
Please welcome global consulting company Life Is Now CEO Steph Tuss to our Quick Fire 5 segment.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family, welcome to our Quick Fire 5. Today, I have on CEO of Life Is Now, Steph Tuss. Steph, thank you so much for joining us for our Quick Fire 5. And then your episode is going to be next week. So this is our chance for you to introduce yourself to all of our FBP family.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah.
You want me to introduce myself?
Well, I have some questions that I'm going to ask you.
Let's do it.
That's the best way to get to know you. I would love to know, what is your top guilty pleasure?
So I'm going to say 2 top guilty pleasures because I can do them at the same time. One is I have a gluten sensitivity and a dairy sensitivity, and I am addicted to oat milk ice cream, and I like to eat it watching Schitt's Creek. And I think I've watched Schitt's Creek, 5 or 6 times all the way through, start to finish. I never get sick of it.
That's how I feel about The Office. The Office is on in our family all the time. So I get it. Great answer. All right. Now we'd like to know a habit or an action that you do to be productive.
So every single morning when I come into the office, I'm CEO, so I've got a lot on my plate. I just stop what I'm doing and I think of the top 3 things that I need to get done that day. And I write it on a Post-it note and I stick it on my computer. And as I get those 3 things done, I cross it off. And what that does is it just helps me maintain focus and know what my top 3 priorities are through that day.
Good one. I like the advice. All right. Number 3, what is an activity that you do that you feel as if it calms you down?
So my husband and I are currently addicted to Lego. So when I'm feeling super stressed, we will build Lego. I sort the pieces. He builds the pieces. So all I need to do is focus on my one role and it focuses my mind. And it's so wonderfully calming because I can't think of anything else while I'm building Lego.
All right. The kids out there are going to love that one. The adult Legoing. I love it. Awesome. All right. Al, I'm really curious to hear what book that you would recommend for our FBP family.
So one of the books that's had the most impact on my life is a book called Trust by Iyanla Vanzant. I read the book and it had a profound impact on my life. It showed me areas where I wasn't trusting myself and why I wasn't trusting myself, which is the key in being a leader in any industry. So much so that I got trust tattooed on my wrist. So highly recommend the book Trust by Iyanla Vanzant.
Thank you. We have not had that book before. And let's see, this is about our how many shows are we at? Like maybe 500 and you might be our 504th show. And I don't think we've ever had that book. So thank you for the recommendation.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to hand the mic over to you. You get 30 seconds. more or less, whichever you'd like to take, to invite everybody out there listening to your episode next week?
So we're going to be talking about accountability. And the problem with accountability is that most people don't understand what accountability is. A lot of people think accountability is how to catch your people not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But that's really a dysfunctional use of accountability. So we're going to talk about what you need to make sure that you have in your business as a leader, as an owner, as a manager, to make accountability really easy, really conflict free, and so that everybody wins rather than somebody gets in trouble, somebody has to have a hard conversation, somebody needs to yell at somebody else. There's a very different approach that you can take to this that makes it very, very easy. And in the end, everybody wins because the job gets done in a really great way.
All right, everybody, you heard it right from Steph Tuss's voice. Come back next week as she talks about holding your team accountable for their job.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family, Sarah Pellegrino here, your host of The Value Proposition. Boy, do I have a stellar lineup of monthly episodes just for you. Each month, I'm bringing you an insightful conversation with a different supplier so you can learn the value they bring to the industry above and beyond their product or service. Don't miss this month's episode of The Value Proposition going live this Friday. You can download anywhere you listen to your podcast or from our website. You can watch the podcast on our YouTube channel or from our website as well, fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
Next week's episode really tackles the workplace problems caused by lack of accountability. If you are a business owner or a team leader, don't miss this show. It is filled with great advice. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the show at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com so you can teach your team how to embrace accountability. That's a wrap on another great episode here at the Fitness Business Podcast. But before we go, I'd like to say thank you to our founding partner, Active Management, our partners, Body Map, MyZone, Hapana, as well as our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, and MX Metrics. We believe what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but woven into the lives of others.